Dear student friends, welcome to this session. In this session, we are going to study the expansion devices used in the refrigerating machines, generally the vapor compression refrigeration systems. So, what is the expansion device? The expansion device performs two functions in the refrigerating machines. First one is the expansion, that is the reduction in the pressure. So the pressure decreases in the expansion devices as the refrigerant flows through the expansion devices. So this is one important function of the expansion devices in the refrigerating machines. One more function is performed by the expansion devices in the refrigerating machines, in the especially the vapor compression refrigeration systems, and that function is to control the flow rate of the refrigerant which is flowing in the line. The refrigerant is flowing from the condenser to the evaporator through the expansion device. So that rate of flow of the refrigerant towards the evaporator from the condenser is also controlled by the expansion device depending upon the requirement, depending upon the load and the system, depending upon the load on the system and various similar factors. The flow rate of the refrigerant is controlled by the expansion device. So that is another important function of the expansion device. So in case of the vapor compression refrigeration system, the expansion device will just provide some restriction to the flow of the refrigerant. So the restriction to the flow is sufficient to expand the refrigerant fluid. Now we are not obtaining positive work through the expansion. Whenever expansion is there, we can obtain positive work, because during the expansion process, when the volume increases, that means when the pressure decreases, the system is doing work on the surrounding and we can obtain the positive work of expansion. But in vapor compression refrigeration system, it is not affordable to obtain the work of compression, and moreover it is practically impossible to expand the liquid refrigerant. And due to these difficulties, due to these problems, we are not trying to obtain the work of expansion in the expansion device, but we are just providing the restriction to the flow, and due to the restriction to the flow, the expansion is taking place. There is no change in the heat, there is no heat transfer supposed in this particular expansion process. So this expansion process, according to vapor compression refrigeration system, is the throttling process. Now this restriction which is provided to the flow of refrigerant by the expansion device, it can be a constant restriction or it can be a variable restriction. The restriction can be changed or the restriction cannot be changed. If in a particular expansion device it is not possible to change the restriction, then that is a constant restriction type expansion device, and the example is capillary tube. So in case of constant restriction type expansion device, we can also not stop the flow. But in case of variable restriction expansion device, we can change the restriction, we can change the flow manually or automatically, or sometimes if required we can also stop the flow of refrigerant with the help of this expansion device, which is a variable restriction type expansion device. And the variable restriction type expansion device may be manual or automatic. That means the restriction can be changed manually or it can be changed automatically depending upon the load or depending upon the similar conditions which are changing in the due course of the operation of the refrigerating machine. So this is the first type of expansion device which we are going to study, that is nothing but the capillary tube. So this capillary tube is the constant restriction type expansion device. It is a long tube. The length may vary from 2 meters to 5 meters, but the diameter is very small, of the order of 0.2 millimeter. Of course, it is variable. It depends. It varies from machine and application to application. It depends upon the total load. So this length and the internal diameter of the capillary tube is designed properly depending upon the required reduction in pressure and the required variation in the load, etc., etc. So depending upon the practical conditions, the loading conditions, the design of the expansion device, that is the capillary tube, is done, the internal diameter and the length. If you increase the length of the capillary tube, the restriction will be increased and that will increase the reduction in pressure, right? And if we decrease the diameter, the internal diameter, that will also increase the reduction in pressure, or that will also increase the expansion. So the expansion can be increased either by decreasing the internal diameter of the capillary tube or by increasing the length of the capillary tube. So the length and the internal diameter of the capillary tube is designed properly for that particular system, for that particular load, or for that particular variation in the load. Generally, capillary tube is not suitable in those applications where the load is variable, and those applications where the load is small and the variation in the load is also negligible. In that case, in those applications, we are using the capillary tube as the expansion device. The example is the domestic refrigerator and the window and the split air conditioner and the small cold storages, etc. So in the smaller devices, we are using the capillary tube. If you take the example of the use of the capillary tube in the domestic refrigerator, you will find that first of all the load on the domestic refrigerator is small, then the variation in the load is also very small, and if at all there is variation in the load due to variation in the pressure, that is the due to the change in the evaporator pressure and the condenser pressure, you will find that the flow will automatically change, though the restriction doesn't change, but the flow rate will automatically change to some extent due to the change in the pressure difference. So the pressure difference may slightly change, and that will lead to the slight change in the flow rate of the refrigerant through the capillary tube. Otherwise, in the capillary tube we cannot change the restriction. So in this figure you can see that the liquid refrigerant from the condenser is entering, and it is, before it pass through the capillary tube, it is passing through a strainer and a dryer. So in this dryer and strainer, the moisture is removed and the impurities which are present in the refrigerant are removed, because these impurities, when they will pass through the capillary tube, definitely they can choke the passage, because the capillary tube diameter is very small. Moreover, if moisture is present in the refrigerant, you will find that the other end of the capillary tube, which is closer to the evaporator, this end of the capillary tube which is closer to the evaporator, so the temperature at this particular passage is less than 0 degree centigrade. So here what will happen is that the moisture will freeze into ice, and then this will lead to the ice choking of the passage, and when the refrigerant is unable to flow through the capillary tube towards the evaporator, then you will find that the system will be unnecessary heavily loaded, and this may damage the system, and cooling will also not take place, right? So due to this reason we are installing a dryer strainer at the beginning of the capillary tube, and when the refrigerant, when the impurities from the refrigerant and the moisture from the refrigerant is removed, then only the refrigerant will pass through the capillary tube, which is having a very small diameter and a long length, and which gets expanded in the capillary tube, and after that it will pass through the evaporator, and from the evaporator the refrigerant will go back to the compressor. So that was about the capillary tube. So this picture is also regarding the capillary tube, but here in addition to capillary tube, the various components of vapor compression system are also shown. This is the compressor. The refrigerant get compressed in the compressor, then it passes, goes to the evaporator, and from the evaporator the refrigerant goes to the capillary tube. From the capillary tube, uh, sorry, the refrigerant from the compressor will go to the condenser. From the condenser the refrigerant will go to the strainer dryer where the impurities will be removed and moisture will be removed. Now this refrigerant will pass through the capillary tube and then it will enter the evaporator. From the evaporator the refrigerant will go back to the compressor, and here you can have a accumulator. This accumulator will not allow the liquid refrigerant to enter the compressor. Now some part of this capillary tube is, you can say, it is connected, it is attached to this portion, that is the suction of the compressor. It is attached to the suction of the compressor. So here what is happening is that there is a regenerative heat exchange. There is a regenerative heat exchange. So here the refrigerant which is going to the compressor from the evaporator is having low temperature, and the refrigerant here which is passing through the capillary tube, it is having high temperature. So this refrigerant will be cooled initially in the capillary tube, right, by regenerative cooling, and whatever refrigerant which is going to the compressor, its temperature is low, so that will be heated in a regenerative way by the refrigerant which is flowing through the capillary tube, right. So this portion is acts like a heat exchanger. There is a small heat exchange, regenerative heat exchange taking place here. So this capillary tube is shown here. This picture already we have seen. The liquid refrigerant is entering, it is passing through the strainer, then the capillary tube, then the evaporator, and then back to the compressor. So this was the capillary tube. Now another expansion device is the hand expansion valve or the hand operated expansion valve. So here you will find that the liquid refrigerant is entering from here, it is leaving from here, and here there is a restriction. This restriction can be changed manually. This is a hand wheel. If the hand wheel is rotated, this restriction can be increased or decreased, right. So this is the valve stem, this is the packing nut, and there is a packing here, and here we are having the screw, that is the nut and bolt arrangement. So due to rotation you will find that this valve stem will be lifted upwards or it will go in the downward direction. If the valve stem is lifted upwards, then this restriction will be increased, sorry, the passage area will be increased and the restriction will be decreased, okay, and the flow rate will be increased. So thus the expansion as well as the flow rate can be controlled manually or with the help of the hand by just rotating this handle of the hand operated expansion valve is possible. So in details you can see this particular valve, this is the valve, this is the passage, the refrigerant is entering like this, and after passing through this restricted passage it can leave this particular passage, and thus the expansion takes place and the flow rate is controlled. This is again the larger view. This is the valve, this is the inlet, and this is the outlet. This is the screw. Here the threads are provided. So due to rotation, this valve can be lifted or it can come in the move in the downward direction. Right? It can be lifted or it can be lowered down. So another important expansion device is nothing but the automatic expansion valve. So this automatic expansion valve, it operates on the pressure difference, right. First of all, we'll try to understand the construction of this automatic expansion valve. So this automatic expansion valve, first of all, consists of this particular body, right. This is the body of the automatic expansion valve. Then here this is the liquid refrigerant is entering, and as the liquid refrigerant enters, here you will find that there is a strainer, it passes through the strainer. So the impurities are removed and the moisture is removed in the strainer, right. And this is the outlet for the liquid refrigerant from the automatic expansion valve. This is the valve and this is the valve seat. So when this valve moves in the upward direction, then this restriction will be increased or the opening will be decreased, right. Now this is the valve stem, and you can see that this valve stem is connected to a diaphragm, which is a flexible, you can say, thin sheet, right? And the connected to this diaphragm, connected to this wall stem, is a spring and the adjusting screw. So the spring is exerting some pressure on this particular diaphragm and this particular wall stem in the downward direction, and whatever force or the pressure is exerted by the spring in the downward direction on this diaphragm and ultimately this wall stem, that can be changed, that can be adjusted by rotating this particular screw, right? So this pressure of the spring is acting on this diaphragm in the downward direction. The pressure which is acting on this diaphragm in the upward direction is the evaporator pressure, because this portion of this particular automatic expansion valve is connected to the evaporator, right? So the change in the evaporator pressure is sensed by this particular valve, and accordingly the refrigerant flow rate will be controlled. So suppose if the refrigerant in the evaporator has left the evaporator and very less quantity of refrigerant is present in the evaporator, because the refrigerant has been sucked by the compressor. So that time the pressure of the evaporator will be reduced. So due to reduction in the pressure of the evaporator, what will happen is that this diaphragm will move in the downward direction due to the spring pressure, right? And due to that the opening will be increased, the restriction will be reduced, and the opening will be increased due to the movement of this diaphragm and the valve in the downward direction. And due to the increase in the opening, more liquid refrigerant will enter in this particular automatic expansion valve, and that will enter, that will go to the uh, evaporator, right? So the main function of this automatic expansion valve is to control the flow rate of the refrigerant, uh, which is passing from the condenser to the evaporator. So the refrigerant liquid from the condenser is entering from here, and it is leaving from this particular automatic expansion valve, and it is going to the evaporator. So this is how the automatic expansion valve works. So this is one more figure of the automatic expansion valve. Next one is the thermostatic expansion valve. So this thermostatic expansion valve is also a expansion valve which is a variable restriction type expansion valve, and due to the change in the restriction the flow rate of the refrigerant is changed. But this change in the flow rate of the refrigerant depends upon the load on the evaporator, right? Now the load on the evaporator means if that is the heat load, right? So if we keep more substances in the domestic refrigerator space, then the load will be increased, right? If the uh, substances which are kept in the domestic refrigerator are hot, the temperature is more, then the load will be increased, right? And if we keep very less substances or cold substances in the domestic refrigerator, the load will be reduced, right? So this load is nothing but the cooling load or the heat load, right? So when the temperature of the evaporator tends to increase because of the load, that time we say that the evaporator is loaded, right? So the load on the evaporator is sensed, and that feedback is given to this particular thermostatic expansion valve, and depending upon that feedback the restriction will be changed and the flow rate of the refrigerant towards the evaporator will be changed, right? So let us study the construction and working of the thermostatic expansion valve. This is the evaporator. The evaporator is connected to the outlet of the thermostatic expansion valve, and this is the inlet of the thermostatic expansion valve that is connected to the condenser or sometimes the liquid receiver which is next to condenser, right? Now this evaporator, the end of the evaporator, the other end of the evaporator, from the outer side it is connected to a thermal bulb, right? So in the this thermal bulb the same refrigerant which is flowing through the evaporator is present, and this thermal bulb is connected to the thermostatic expansion valve from the top side of the diaphragm through a capillary tube. So this is a capillary tube, and the refrigerant is present in the capillary tube as well as in this particular thermal bulb, and it is the same refrigerant is present in the top side of this particular thermostatic expansion valve, that portion which is above the diaphragm. This is the diaphragm, and this diaphragm will just divide this particular thermostatic expansion valve space into two parts, upper part and the lower part. So the upper portion of the thermostatic expansion valve, which is above the diaphragm, is connected through a capillary tube, a small capillary tube. Small length is also small. This capillary tube is not that capillary tube which is used as the expansion device. Okay, so this is just used for connecting the thermal bulb to this particular thermostatic expansion valve. Okay, so the thermal bulb, the refrigerant which is present in the thermal bulb, it is exerting pressure on this particular diaphragm, and this pressure increases and decreases depending upon the temperature of the thermal bulb, right? And this thermal bulb is heated due to the refrigerant which is leaving the evaporator, right? So the temperature and the pressure of the refrigerant of the fluid in the thermal bulb depends upon the temperature of the refrigerant which is leaving the evaporator, right? So this adjustment is done in such a way that this thermostatic expansion valve should operate properly, or it should the opening should be there, sufficient opening should be there when the refrigerant leaving the evaporator is slightly superheated up to the required degree of superheat, right? So at that time the opening of this particular valve will be up to the required level, right? So we are studying the construction of this thermostatic expansion valve. This is a diaphragm, a thin metal sheet which is flexible and which can move in the upward and lower direction, though it is fixed at the borders, but it can slightly get curved, it can become convex or concave, right? And to this diaphragm, the valve stem and the valve, they are connected. This is the valve seat. So the movement of the valve over the valve seat will change the restriction, will change the area available for flow rate of the refrigerant from this inlet to the outlet to the evaporator, right? Now here we are having a spring which will also exert pressure on this particular valve, and here also the spring pressure or the spring force can be adjusted by the adjusting screw. This is the adjusting screw, right? So this is the construction. Now let us study the working of the thermostatic expansion valve. As per the working of the thermostatic expansion valve, whenever the temperature of the refrigerant which is leaving the evaporator will increase, so that will increase the temperature and pressure of the fluid which is present in the thermal bulb, and due to that force will be acting in the downward direction on this particular diaphragm. So that will move the diaphragm and the valve in the downward direction, and again the spring force, this opening will be increased, the restriction will be reduced, and more refrigerant will be allowed to flow towards the evaporator. That means when the load is increased, automatically the temperature of the refrigerant at the end of the evaporator will be increased, right? So due to that, the refrigerant which is entering inside the evaporator should be increased. So what is happening here is that due to the increase in the temperature of the refrigerant which is leaving the evaporator, this pressure which is acting on the diaphragm in the downward direction increases. This pressure is acted by this particular fluid which is present in the thermal bulb, and due to that this valve and the diaphragm moves in the downward direction, and this passage area is increased, and automatically more refrigerant will be allowed to flow to the evaporator, and that will compensate the increase in the load. Vice versa, if the load on the evaporator is decreased, then the temperature of the refrigerant which is leaving the evaporator will automatically get decreased. So due to that, this temperature and pressure of this fluid in the thermal bulb will be reduced, and therefore the force which is acting in the downward direction on this particular diaphragm and the valve will be reduced. So due to that, this valve will move slightly in the upward direction, so that will increase the restriction and decrease the flow rate. decrease the flow area available for the refrigerant towards the evaporator, and therefore the flow rate of the refrigerant which is flowing to the evaporator will be reduced, and this will take care of the reduced load on the evaporator. So this is the working of the thermostatic expansion valve. So this is one more figure of the thermostatic expansion valve. This is a similar figure, right? So thank you, my dear friends.